we are delighted to have three of the biggest winners in piping with us. We've got Ben Duncan from Edinburgh, who's recently retired from the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards at a very young age of 33. One of the most successful solo players going around these days. Jenny Hazzard, who's familiar to many people, member of Field Marshal Montgomery Pipe Band for several years now, and also very successful solo competitor in her own right. And Bruce Gandy of Halifax, Nova Scotia. Bruce probably needs little introduction to anybody. Extremely successful, top of the heap, top tier competitor for many years. We're delighted to have them with us to talk about kind of an ironic thing, losing. And in a good way, but losing because we pipers and drummers, whether it's solo competition or pipe bands, we don't finish first as much as we finish, take other prizes or not in the list at all. So it's kind of an ironic thing that we thought we'd talk about. So thanks very much, guys, for taking the time today.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bruce, your book that you came out with a few years ago, I mean, you literally wrote the book on motivation and positive reinforcement. That was a big part of what you wrote about. How difficult really is it to manage losing as a solo piper, as a pipe band player?
Well, as soon as I thought I had an answer until you worded that to me, and I'm like, geez, that's hard. You have to manage it or you don't play, and you have to understand that as much as you're attempting to win an event, you're just doing the best you can and hoping that everything that happened before you actually played in that event is good enough to propel you into the place to win. Some really, really good advice that I got a couple of years ago was that if you're practicing and you're getting your lessons or you're teaching or doing whatever the prep it is, you have to remember in piping that when you start to play, it's now out of your hands what the other players are going to do, and it's also out of your hands what the audience or the judges are going to think. So if you think about that, that's been a great source to me about just being prepared. I don't even think about losing or winning. I just think about playing the same as it sounded down here, for instance. And that's been one of the best management tools possible. The other thing, which will hopefully bring up to you guys, is that for a good reason, several years ago, it dawned on me to never think about winning, but to think about, it's a mindset thing, think about not losing. And that just means proper preparation and not blaming the others. The times I've been in band circles, our own band circle, where they've complained about, oh, these guys shouldn't have won and they shouldn't have done this. And how did that guy, he missed 2 burls and a doubling. How do you get a prize? And I'm like, well, you didn't hear any of this from the same vantage point if you were actually playing. So it's impossible to compare. But why not figure out, if you think that person wasn't very good, let's, missed 2 burls, had a choke and a squeal, and they somehow got ahead of you, then you need to sit down and go, somehow the judges still thought that person was better. So why is it that they were better? And what are you doing that's not good enough? And that's what started me on it's not about losing, it's why isn't it winning? And losing is a scary word, and it's like, I try not to say problem in lessons with students as well. I'll say the issue we're looking at. And just because they're so super negative that they're hard to get over. So I'll try that for starters. See what do you think?
Yeah, Jenny, and any thoughts about what Bruce just threw out there?
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting because I just when you were saying that you have found it useful, Bruce, when you're playing to not think about winning, think about not losing. I think I kind of agree. I think I would say that probably the most comfortable that I've tended to feel in competition or when I've been playing and it's ended up going well and not not going badly, has been when I've had the thought in my mind that maybe even after a short part of the performance, you feel like it's going okay. And I think everybody here thinks I'm a decent player at this point, and that's kind of okay. That's like, it doesn't really matter if I win. As you say, it's what the judges might think, what everybody might think, how everybody else might play is completely out of my hands. But at least at this point, if I can feel like I'm making a decent fist of it, I feel like I belong here. I feel like I'm doing as well as I can do, and people who are listening think, oh, that's all right. That's that's pretty good. Then I can relax and be comfortable. So yeah, I don't know if that's quite the same thing, but I think the idea of focusing on losing or even focusing on winning in the middle of a performance is probably a bad idea, for any of us in what we do, being so dependent on every tiny little thing. The smallest little flaw, the smallest little lapse in concentration can make it all go wrong. I think if you've got that in your mind that I need to win, I must win this, or I must not lose, is probably going to cause you more grief than than actually just trying to play something nice, trying to play as well as you can do.
And Ben, I mean, you've been a consistent prize winner a lot, going around the games, especially in Scotland and the big competitions as well. Any initial thoughts just to kick us off here?
I kind of agree with everybody else. I mean, we obviously go to these competitions to try and win, but the bottom line is you're not going to play any better than your very, very best as such. So when you're in the house practicing away and you think this is the absolute ceiling of my playing, thinking absolutely this is going great, you can't then expect to be any better on the boards. If you are better on the boards, superb, great, but to expect yourself to do more than that when you get out there in a high pressure environment, it's just bonkers in my head. And I mean, so long as I go out and I don't embarrass myself, I'm pretty happy. I'm not
That wouldn't
really
happen very often.
I don't know about that. I have my moments, but it's just about getting out there, trying to replicate what I've done in the house on the boards, and whatever happens, happens. It's not really about. It is about the win. Of course, it's about the win. It's a competition, but I don't get disheartened. I really don't get disheartened at all with the winning at all. Quite clearly, most of the time, the best tune on the best bagpipe will win. It's as simple as that. And if you're not that person, you're not that person. Try again. That's it. If you want to try again, which I do, and that's where I get a kick out of it, thinking, well, we'll do that again. There must have been something wrong, and then it's back to the drawing boards, going through things I find difficult just to see. Right, there must have been something there that's made me necessarily not get close or whatever. But
Yeah, even
I'm not going to kid myself.
Yeah, even the best golfers will shank a shot, for occasionally, and I think they're human. I think people understand that. But I think really well put, Ben. Jenny, when we were trying to put this together and reached out to you to see if you'd be interested, you joked that you consider yourself quite an accomplished loser, which I found very funny because you win so often at things. What did you mean by that?
Oh, well, yeah, I was. It was meant to be a joke, but like in a way, and I guess kind of what you'd said yourself and what we've all agreed that in piping and probably in anything competitive that any of us do, you're going to not win an awful lot more often than you do win. And so I think if we've all got lots of experience of losing, if you want to put it that way, or of not winning. I've certainly not won an awful lot of times, and I guess in saying that, even though I was trying to be funny, is that I think that's quite important to, if you're going to be miserable anytime you don't win, then there's not a lot of point in doing this. I think if any of us are going out thinking that the only way I'm going to enjoy this day, the only way I'm going to have a good time, the only time I'm going to feel fulfilled in doing this is if I win, then really should just pack it in, because it's, you know, there's nobody, even the absolute top competitors in the world don't win more often than they do. And so I think in me saying that I consider myself an accomplished loser, I was joking, but I think that I do bring a good attitude to it in that way. And, you know, I'll always ask myself, am I actually enjoying this? Have I, you know, if I go to a competition, whether it's a band or individual, have I had a good time? If I, you know, if I haven't won or if we haven't won, have I had a good time? Have I enjoyed it? Has it been a good day? Have I learned something from it? Have I had a laugh? Have I got something out of it? And I've never yet had the answer be no. And I think if the answer was no, then that might be the time to say, time to do more running, less piping.
I definitely feel the same way as that, Jenny, and I'm probably living evidence that had it not been that way, I would have been a no some years back now. But I found with myself that, you know, you want it really bad, so you try really hard. But I've also got to a place, I think, where I can take the prize. And sometimes I'm just, you know, I may have felt I should have won it, or I just wasn't happy with enough of my own playing, or one of those, whatever the reason was that I was fourth, fifth, or nothing. And I find I can just walk away for even 30 seconds, go to the bathroom and kind of just, you know, vent a little bit and like, fool, what did you do that for? Blah, blah, blah. But I can spit it out now in sort of 30 seconds or a minute, vent, and then go, okay,
You'll
next.
be all right. Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I still enjoy competing. In fact, I love competing because it forces you to elevate your practicing at home to a higher level. And that's what I think I like the most about it. It's can I make it the way I'd really want to hear it if I was in the audience. And I say that because I absolutely love just as much, and I did one last Sunday, a recital, you know, a 45-minute recital for people, some who were pipers and others who weren't, and talk to them. To me, that's just as nerve-wracking as competing. In fact, more so, because
you can't just break down and leave.
You can't run away.
Yeah, because when you compete, it's you and the judge, and it's a bunch of dots and cuts, and you make them where you don't, or you break down, or you miss something, you don't get a prize. When you're with people, and I remember you saying this years and years ago, Andrew, and also from reading Livingston Taylor's book, that the audience is your employer as a musician all the time. And you said that when you were busking and talking about the band practice, saying busking was the best job in the world. It's the only job you get paid if you do well at. And but so is playing a recital. You know, I have to get over the fact that it's not about a doubling or a miss or something in recital. It's about tone and musical rhythm to keep people in their chairs. And that to me is just so much more rewarding than, okay, I played really good. And some days I've played here and felt bad because others just didn't have a great day and gone, okay, I won, yay, but I feel bad because, you know, that guy had a mistake and his bass.
Oh, I've never felt like that.
And it's like, you know, it could have been better, but in a recital is every bit as good. But unless you're, I mean, really, unless you're in the open prize, usually you don't have an opportunity to do recital type things. So we're stuck with competing all the time, which I've always found not as nice. And, you know, when junior bands have a year-end recital, it's fantastic. And our Pipers clubs that we get the kids to play, and I grew up playing, they're so good.
Yeah, you know, speaking of juniors, you know, Ben, you're working with George Watson's College now, and you're working with a lot of kids. Do you discuss competition and, you know, the bigger picture with them?
I do, yeah, but like when even with the army band as such, it's going back to the winning thing. It never ever is about winning. It's just about taking the very, very best we can do in eliminating all these elements that we can, the things that we've got control of, and then taking it onto the park and hoping that it all holds together. I've got a really young bunch this time in the novice junior lot, so we're working pretty hard just to get them their understanding of the whole concept. We're right back to the drawing boards with it. But I make the point very clear that we don't worry about what our contenders are doing. We worry about what we're doing, and that's the only thing really that matters at that time. And if we go on and we play very well and we get hee-haw, then so be it. But then at least we know that it's absolutely the best thing we could have put out. And that's
No, but sticking with you, Ben, considering that even the greatest pipers, drummers, pipe bands, lose or place second or lower, far more often than they finish first. Why do you think we're so drawn to competition?
I think, like Bruce said earlier on, it gives you something to aim for, and when it drives your practice that little bit more. I know myself, like maybe this time of year, I'll just be in the house enjoying tunes, playing bits of it's just as good actually, because you're really, really just enjoying the music. Not that I don't enjoy the music when I'm out and about, but you do just enjoy the music. But you'll let yourself slip with a couple of bits and bobs here. Whereas with the competition, it's driving you to perfection, or as close to perfection as you can bend yourself out of shape to. And that's certainly why I like it, because it really pushes you in a direction. Again, it gives us a platform to display our music as well, especially with P-Rock as well. I mean, there's not that many, certainly in and around Edinburgh, not that many places that you can knock out a P-Rock and somebody sits and appreciates it as such. So again, it gives you a regular outing of your tunes, and that's
yeah. And so Bruce, thoughts on that? Is this compelling desire to compete? Is it ultimately healthy? For pipers and drummers.
I don't know. Maybe should have had Bev sitting here right now. And I mean, I know that I'm definitely excessive as it is, and I've come down here. It's a laugh in our house when I'm coming down for 20 minutes to play, because there's no such thing. And an hour and a half later, I might surface. And Beverly is well known to come through that door there and go, "You need to stop. You're going to be hurting. Your shoulder's going to be bad. Then you'll be complaining about your health tomorrow." And she's right. And I'm like, no, but I need to finish that one more, especially in August when you've got 6 of each going. You can't do that in an hour. But the other thing is, like when Ben says, to knock out a good P-Rock, yes, I like to do that, but I also really, really enjoy now getting a good seat and hearing a bunch of it.
Mm-hmm.
I just love to hear all the good players playing good, and just seeing what they're doing with tunes and really taking it in. And that could be a product of age, I guess, or whatever, but it is more enjoyable. And the times I've been lucky enough to play at Glenfinnan or the Braddock, I feel I want to hear all those players playing really good. And that motivates me, like, okay, yeah, everyone's in good shape. Let's go and do it. You practice too, and we'll see what happens. And I also find it, I know before I played in a contest once, and one of the main competitors had a couple of big clangers, and in my head was like, okay, just get through smoothly, and you got this in the bag. Worst mental thought I could ever put in my head. It was an absolute disaster. And it was on a great night, because I'm not going to go down that road, but Glenna Mackay at that time was studying psychology, and I was wearing a Holter monitor that night. And my heart rate went from here to through the roof, near heart attacks, when I'm playing a medley and trying to rewrite a third part of a jig on the spot to not self-destruct, all because I thought, oh, all I had to do is I just got to finish and I'll be through to the next round. It was a Toronto knockout, and that was a really big learning lesson that night.
Well, that's kind of back to what you were saying before, isn't it? That if you start thinking about winning, if that's your motivation, or that's what's in your mind most when playing, is I just need to do this and I will win, then that's probably when the wheels come off, it all goes wrong, isn't it? Instead of, I want to play this as well as I know I can, I want to play this to, I want this to be great, I want it to be good, then that's maybe a sort of conversely a sort of more relaxing thing to think, then I must just be okay and maybe I'll win.
Yeah, it's really fascinating, that sort of psychology around what we do. And why don't we wrap up this part and right here, and we'll come back with part 2 and talk about some of your own sort of techniques and backgrounds, and some of the things, methods that you use personally as you go along, in addition to what we've already talked about. So stay tuned for part 2.